co-founder of Coinsilium, which is a company that has been active now overall since 2014 in London, and I started 2013 out of Hong Kong, and we have been investing in 17 blockchain companies since then. And I was, as it was said, I was nominated, and Sitcoin was nominated among the top 3 most influential investors in 2014, but to be honest, in 2014 there were not so many investors in this space. I don't know if I have slides. I have a lot of figures in my slides, so hopefully we have the slides because there are a few charts and figures that I wanted to present to you and talk about ICO data. But just to give you a quick intro as well about Coinsilium, we are a venture builder and we are accelerating startups and financing startups in this space. And we have been doing so now, as I was saying, since 2014, and we have been listed on Next Exchange, which is an exchange in London, recognized stock exchange in London since December 2015. So here are the slides, great. I changed a little bit the title of my speech because the initial speech that I started working on earlier this year was presented in a few events, and now I wanted to focus more on the new challenges that are being faced by both entrepreneurs and investors in this space. I think it's quite important to see that this is a whole ecosystem of entrepreneurs and investors, and so I was going to speak to you about these new roles and challenges in this space. So this was a quick intro about myself, but that's been done. As you can see, Coinsilium, which is also a proud sponsor of this event. Just moving on to blockchain, which of course all of you know, but what was really important, I think, at some point is that Harvard Business Review has been labeling blockchain as a foundational technology. So what does that mean? It means that blockchain is going to have a long-term impact on our society. I was said by previous speakers here, we expect blockchain to affect a whole range of sectors, industries, and even our daily lives, about how we interact with value, how we interact with different systems. So this is just to show you a few of the investors that came into this space, mainly for the last 2 years. We started very early. We started in 2013, started incubating startups, and as you can see, January 2016 up to now, a lot of big names, a lot of stock exchanges, banks, financial institutions have been active in this space. And they have been investing, and they've been also doing what we call acqui-hiring, which is basically buying out startups to make sure they get the talent, because there is a real scarcity of talent in this space. So when we started, we could invest in this type of companies, which were what we would call the transactional companies, the first generation up in this table: financial services, payment, trading and markets, and remittances. And lately, we have been able to look at a more diverse range of companies and startups in security, data, smart contracts, Internet of Things, which have been enabled by new blockchains, by new technologies, and also by a tremendous number of new startups in this space, very, very active, very dynamic. So this is just a chart to show a few companies we either invested or work with or advise, and the different sectors of the economy, really, that are being affected by blockchain opportunities and that are being changed and disrupted by these new technologies. So this is just a quick outlook, and I will go into more details a bit later. But you can see a few companies here. RSK, important company for us. We were the first seed investor in RSK, a smart contract platform which is actually validated by the Bitcoin network. Factom, also extremely active in the world of mortgages, mainly in the US, billion-dollar industry. And our latest investment, which we call pre-ICO investments, Indoors and Coindash. Now, what happened this year, there's been a huge increase in interest in this space, but there's also been a shift in the dominance of crypto markets. So as you can see in this graph on the left there, Bitcoin used to be the dominant cryptocurrency in the world since the world of cryptocurrency started, which basically with Bitcoin, and it remains the most important and the big reference, but we can see that it started losing market share, if you will, compared to the other cryptocurrencies, so for example Ripple or Ethereum, And this happened in June 2017. And here we can see this huge spike as well of the market cap, the global market cap of cryptocurrencies, which reached about $170 billion. And these both happened this year, so it's a very recent event. And at the same time, when all these new altcoins, we call them altcoins, alternative currencies, came into the market, at the same time we saw the number of investment directly from the crowd through a system we call token sale actually being larger than the investment through traditional VCs and investors. So this was happening this year, as I was saying, and here just a few examples of how we call it ICOs or token sales. Golem, November raised 8.6 million, Kutum, March raised 15, Cosmos, etc. So the trend has been accelerating, more and more companies coming in this space and raising more and more funds. Now, let's compare quickly to what happened in the 90s. So this is the 90s, and we see dot-com figures. So we had a surge of IPOs in the 90s, in the late 90s from the internet era, and then although a lot of these IPOs, about 86% went down after the March 2000 dot-com bubble crash, still we see that real value has been created, and this is to show that some companies, and here the examples are Amazon, Netflix, for example, have reached an incredible increase of the value in the share, and here is about 1000x for Amazon, for example, over, of course, a long period of time since then, but there has been real value being created. Now, this is just 135 blockchain startup with ICOs out of CB Insight. So this is just a quick map, and they have been, let's say, separated into sectors, industry sectors. And as well, here we see the Google search trend for terms like ICO, Ethereum. So this is to show the spike of interest and the numbers of ICOs now in the market. I'm sorry it's not very clear, but I can share the presentation later. So what are these challenges for blockchain entrepreneurs? So the additional challenges that happen that they have to face in this space. Security risks. Of course, a lot of the ICOs are focused on one event, which is a token generation event, and that puts a lot of pressure on security, more pressure from legal and tax risks. So there is more and more lawyers and tax advisors in this space. Now, of course, the new focus on the token sale can distract the team and move away a bit from product development, especially for small teams. So I think this is a new challenge for these companies. They're spending a lot of time doing ICOs, roadshows as we call it, which is of course beneficial for the token sale and for making the product and the company known, but it's more time away again from product development. And also, of course, the token price becomes a major focus and a major concern for the whole company. ICO data, again, as at the end of June, we see here the top ICOs, so more than 200 million that was for Tezos. EUS at the time, 200 million, and it's more by now, of course, this was in June. So this is just another graph to show the mass of investment and funds that have been invested in the space. So in June, the number was about more than $1.2 billion, and I think today I've read some articles about $3 billion have been raised through this system. Now, what are the challenges for investors like us and other more traditional investors? Well, of course, now there is a new focus on token value versus equity value. So it's more complex for us to assess these companies. The token utility and the token price become a major concern. Before, we were mainly looking at equity. The regulatory environment is unclear, but hopefully there are solutions, and we are in a country where there are this type of solution coming up. This undefined relationship between the token issuer and the token buyer, the fact that this relationship is not yet clear, this is we're still early in the process. Sometimes a good team may use the wrong token models. You know, if you speak to a lot of VCs, the team is the most important when assessing a project, but now the token model is also extremely important, especially for all these projects doing token sales. And then of course you have all the external events, ICO bans, regulations, security issues, which can adversely affect the token price again. Another graph showing crowdfunding volume and showing the fact that actually token sales represent a tiny portion of crowdfunding in general, crowdfunding volume in general, and also the fact that Bitcoin starts to be meaningful at the macroeconomic level. So how are the ICO trends affecting blockchain investments? Well, first of all, it's changing this role, the role between investors and entrepreneurs. So we have become pre-sale deal hunters, we have become advisors, and we are now facilitating this process. So we're moving from assessing teams investing to assessing teams, assessing token models, reading white papers, and helping, I would say, this more engaging in a way, and helping entrepreneurs raise funds through the token sale. Investment platforms have become channels for simple agreements for future tokens, which I'm talking about AngelList and Coinlist, for example. And ICO investments today are focused more on tokens and data than the traditional way of assessing these companies. So that's the last slide. My predictions for the next 12 months. I believe that ICOs will remain extremely popular, and there will be more and more. I think investors, token buyers, and entrepreneurs, token sellers and issuers are developing a new form of relationship. There will be improvements in technology, which are going to make all this process easier and hopefully more secure. We have the first regulatory framework coming up, and in Gibraltar, that's a leader in this space. And we're going to have fun and exciting things such as the first M&A, merger and acquisition in this space. And I believe we're going to have $10 billion of new tokens sold in the next 12 months, although I may be a little bit under par here as this is growing quite fast. So my last words are that tokens are really emerging as a new asset class, and I think we should consider that this is done already. This is quite historical. There haven't been many new asset classes for a long time. So I think that's the importance of this new token-based economy. Thank you very much.